This is KSL, your news specialists at 5.
KSL on Fire Watch, a live look from Chopper 5 of the flames burning between Eagle Mountain and Saratoga Springs. It's been burning since yesterday afternoon. Today has forced hundreds to evacuate. We have a team of news specialists in the air and on the ground. Deanie Wimmer is live with the evacuees. Kevin Eubank in the Weather Center watching how the wind is playing into firefighting efforts and where we go from here. And Mike Hedrick is live at the command center. Mike, tell us what you know right now.
Yeah, Governor Herbert on his way. In fact, he's making his way right across the street right now. You can look here to the side. You can see some of the hotshot crews as well. They're getting nice. They're getting water, trying to rehydrate as they go back up there on their mountain.
Very explosive fire because of these extreme conditions we're seeing throughout the state. I'm sure the governor is going to have plenty to say about that.
The evacuation order came just before 4:30 as the fire picked up momentum with Fairview right in its path.
We loaded the car with the oxygen generator and photo albums.
We thought we had it whipped today there for a while, but it just broke away. And
unhealthy levels of radon gas detected in a Draper development. Homeowners moved in without testing first, and they did it because
no one told me about radon here.
No one had to, not the builder, the realtor, the city, or the state.
The reason? Well, Utah has no laws concerning radon gas. A KSL investigation discovered it's an issue that seeped through the cracks for nearly 25 years. Mike?
Yeah, Dave and Deanie, health experts call radon gas a serious health threat, a naturally caused silent killer responsible for the most lung cancer cases after cigarettes. Now, major health groups have warned about it since the late 1980s, urging states to take action. But here in Utah, well, nothing had been done until we called. And here's tonight's IN report.
Levels came back at 8.
Ours was at 6.7.
The numbers may not sound high.
Our levels were 6.4.
But when it comes to radon,
it was 16.9.
They are off the chart.
Your levels were 12.1?
Yep.
Holy cow. Unbelievable.
Any reading above 4, and the Environmental Protection Agency says you should mitigate. Simply put, get the gas out of the house.
If I were to keep these windows closed for any amount of time, the gas would build up again.
Bridget Metcalf moved to Draper's Bellevue neighborhood more than a year ago.
This is how the gas comes in.
Metcalf says she was never told about radon and only tested for it after her neighbors found high levels in their homes.
I'm really upset. I mean, to say the least, that I've allowed my family to be in the home for, a year and a half and not knowing that this gas was present in my home.
I would certainly intervene if I saw a 5-year-old smoking a cigarette, and it's just as damaging to their little lungs for radon in their house.
Just down the street,
I think they would have to tear out this whole wall.
Joe Schuyler is about to rip into his new drywall to install a mitigation system for his family.
I wouldn't expose them to asbestos or natural gas or anything that's dangerous, and I want it taken care of.
Schuyler and other neighbors believe the developer, Ivory Homes, should bear more responsibility. Schuyler says they've asked for 3 things: help in paying for mitigation systems, a neighborhood notice about radon, and for Ivory to educate new homeowners about radon and mitigation options.
They said they had no responsibility legally to do any of that. They weren't sure that radon even existed. Told me also that he thought that radon was no more dangerous than drinking from a garden hose. They said specifically to me that they don't want to do anything because it puts them in a place where they can't compete in the marketplace from a profitability standpoint. But from an ethical standpoint, I think it's irresponsible.
So we called Ivory Homes and asked them repeatedly for an on-camera interview. Each time they denied our request. But in a phone call with an Ivory spokesman, we asked about those specific points. He said he could not comment on any of them. He gave us this piece of paper. It is Ivory's official position on radon, the same statement that they give to other homeowners in the area. It says, in part, Ivory cannot, quote, be held accountable for radon levels arising in any specific home, end quote. Ivory cites several reasons in a contract signed by homeowners. According to the EPA, soil tests cannot show how much radon a home will have once it's built, and radon levels can vary from house to house. So to see if that was the case in Bellevue, we went door to door.
My name's Mike Hedrick. I'm with KSL.
Gave radon tests to a dozen homes and sent them in for analysis. Of the 12 homes tested by KSL, 11 had high levels of radon, the highest, a 21.1. Combine our results with those from other homeowners, and you get an average reading of 8.8 per home. That's more than twice the amount considered unsafe by the EPA.
We have it, they have it next door. Everybody, it's just right down the row, and everybody else in the areas, they all have it. It's here.
7.3 is the average.
So we took our findings to Senator John Valentine.
And it gradually goes up, a 17.
Chairman of the Senate Business and Labor Committee.
So this one is 21.6.
The committee that would tackle radon first.
Would that be a concern to you in that neighborhood when you see levels like that?
Yes, it would. Yes. When you see something that's 5 times the EPA recommended average, that then becomes to the level of saying, this is a problem.
But Utah has no laws to deal with that problem. No building codes, no home inspection rules, no testing requirements for schools, no database for test results. The closest thing is a code that requires mitigation installers and repairmen to be licensed contractors. And that means the developer, Ivory Homes, is by all accounts following Utah code.
Kind of a big issue, especially in some states. And it doesn't seem like it's risen to the top here in Utah.
Valentine says the committee often relies on industry experts like home builders to bring issues such as radon to its attention. But in 8 years, no bill has ever come up.
Do you believe that Utah has a responsibility to do something about this?
Utah has a responsibility to build safe homes. We build them.
All right, and after we called Senator Valentine, he began looking into radon. He says that his staff is now reviewing laws, and he's doing it in other states as well. And 4 days after our interview, the Radon Gas Provisions Bill request appeared on the legislative website. It is the first step to writing a law, and we will follow it to see if it actually progresses. Now, as for Ivory Homes, it sent us a follow-up email stating that the radon issue in Bellevue has only recently come to its attention. It said it was in the process of formally telling new home buyers about radon mitigation systems and offered to introduce existing homeowners to reputable contractors. Now, stay tuned because this is just the first piece of this story. Tomorrow night, meet a woman on a cross-country mission to prove that radon gave her lung cancer.
I'm going to beat the odds. I'm not going to die. I refuse to go.
A spirit full of fire and a will to survive. She is Valerie Scott of Cedar Hills, and she was just diagnosed with lung cancer. Doctors cannot say for sure what caused it, but one Utah expert believes that he may have the answer. Radon gas. Now, we told you about it last night during a KSL investigation. Tonight, though, in this ION report, we take you more in depth to reveal how Utah could help link radon to lung cancer.
I'm 53, and I used to think that that was old. Now I'm thinking that's really young, you know.
From the moment you meet Valerie Scott,
this is your grandson, right?
That's my grandson.
It's simply hard not to smile. A mother to 4, a grandma to 1.
I think I just barely got here. I want to get to know him. I adore him. He loves me.
But she is now fighting for every single moment.
The older he gets, the more he's going to miss me if I go. And I hate thinking about that.
Back in June, doctors told Valerie she had lung cancer. In fact, stage 4.
It appears to be blurry because there's so many spots. I was like everyone else, thought I was immune to it because I don't smoke.
Never smoked, never had a symptom. It was actually something else that made Valerie go in. But by the time doctors caught it, the cancer had moved to her brain.
And from that moment, I knew I was going to fight it.
She asked to start treatment right away, but doctors told her to wait. They first needed to see if she had a genetic mutation found only in non-smokers with lung cancer.
It's funny how your prayers change. You know, don't let it be cancer, don't let it be cancer. Please let me be a mutant. Please let me be a mutant.
And she was. And now Valerie is on a mission to answer one question. How?
But once I found out that it was cancer and I was waiting for the test to come back, then I started thinking, I haven't smoked. And radon gas was the only other thing that I'd heard of.
Radon, a naturally occurring gas you cannot see or smell. It seeps through the soil and collects in buildings. The Environmental Protection Agency estimates it kills at least 20,000 people each and every year.
20,000 deaths. I mean, that's just huge. That's probably the 8th or 10th most important cause of cancer death in the U.S. at this time.
Dr. Wallace Akerley is the director of thoracic oncology at Huntsman Cancer Institute.
We know radiation causes cancer. Well, radon is radiation, and it causes cancer.
He's also a leading expert on non-smoking lung cancer.
Is there a way to tell if it's from radon?
Well, not yet. That's where we're hoping to go.
Until now, researchers like Dr. Akerley have relied on case studies to link radon to lung cancer. The evidence is strong, but Akerley wants the smoking gun.
The piece that we're looking for and would like to be able to understand is, can we relate radon exposure directly to these mutations that we're seeing? It seems obvious that there is a relationship, but we're just starting to do that.
And Utah will be the testing ground. First, Akerley says he will use a vast genealogical database to find genes passed through families, and then genetic mutations caused by things like radon. Second, the Department of Environmental Quality lists 17 counties, including the state's most populous areas, in the red zone, or zone 1. The EPA says those areas are most likely to see high levels of radon gas. And third, Utah has the fewest smokers of any state in the nation, according to the Centers for Disease Control. Akerley says that translates into lower lung cancer rates and higher odds it could be caused by something else. Akerley says about half of all Utah lung cancer patients never smoked. Compare that to 15% in other states.
And it's just kind of a shame. These people come in, they know they've done everything right in their lives, and lung cancer still shows up.
I never wake up and think, I've got lung cancer, and panic over that.
Instead, Valerie is getting to work. She wants to conduct radon tests on every home she's ever lived in, from California to Georgia.
Everyone says, what's your bucket list? I'm living my bucket list. You know, my family, my kids, every day. I don't want that to go to waste. And I just want to know that if, it takes me tomorrow, that everyone knows I love them and I've enjoyed them. And, but I'm fighting. I mean, if I go, it'll be dragging and screaming. I don't want to go.
What a woman, huh? If you'd like to test your own home for radon, you can purchase a test through the state's indoor radon program that costs just about $7. That's it. Now, we posted that link on KSL.com along with all the information you could ever want to know about radon. Now, remember, the number one thing that you can do to help yourself is to get educated. Hopefully, we were able to do a little bit of that throughout the last couple of nights.
He didn't ever leave the house. He just opened the door. The kids were one step ahead of me. They're 5 and 7. They were one step ahead of me, and he slammed the door in my face.
New tonight, 911 calls give more details about the final moments for Josh Powell and his 2 boys. The Pierce County Sheriff's Department in Washington released the recordings just a few hours ago.
The calls came from a caseworker, Powell's sister, and his attorney. News specialist Sandra Yee joins us from Washington State with more on those phone calls and how the investigation has progressed.
Deanie and Bruce, authorities continue to delve into the life of Josh Powell. This afternoon, authorities here in Pierce County served a search warrant at his storage shed. Court documents also reveal that police in Utah were treating his wife's disappearance as murder. Police may have been building their case against him. He had lost custody of his kids. People who called 911 knew that he was desperate.
I was just there, and there is somebody here. There's 2 little boys in the house, and they're 5 and 7, and there's an adult man. He had supervised visitation, and he blew up the house and the kids.
Pages of journal entries belonging to Stephen Powell. He's the father-in-law of Susan Powell. They exposed his extreme and twisted infatuation with Susan. News specialist Jennifer Stagg went through the journals tonight. Jen, these go back almost 10 years.
Yeah, Dave, that's right. Stephen Powell is currently in a Washington state prison. He was convicted earlier this year of 14 counts of voyeurism, but his diaries show he was obsessed with Susan and took pictures and video of her without her knowledge up to 6 years before she disappeared.
My greatest problem, as well as my greatest pleasure, lies in the fact that for over a year I have been madly in love with my daughter-in-law, Susan. That is a journal entry from Stephen Powell's spiral notebook diary from January 2003, and the more than 2,000 pages that follow outline in great detail his obsession and fantasies with Susan. I'm falling more in love with Susan, he wrote, but what has driven me primarily is lust. I have never lusted for a woman as I do for Susan, and I can hardly control myself when it comes to her. Another entry, this girl is unbelievably beautiful to me. Just seeing her is a thrill to me. Nearly every entry is about her, his fantasies and disturbing actions. He wrote that he found a box of her pictures and teenage journals. He then spent months copying them.
I do. I love ribbon cuttings.
At the ceremonial opening of a new car dealership, Mallory Rogers does her duty as Miss Murray 2012.
Contestant number 10,
A title she won after 4 years of trying, says pageant director Lisa Lloyd, with intelligence, self-confidence, and perseverance.
She's a determined young woman.
She's a fighter.
Mallory is a fighter.
A quality she's really worked on
Yes, every day.
at the gym.
Like the level of self-confidence that you have when you know that your body is strong and capable.
For years, Rogers danced,
Took my first dance class when I was about 3 years old.
and then she took up a different kind of footwork.
My dad was a boxer. My grandfather boxed in the Army. My uncle won 2 Dallas Golden Gloves. It never occurred to me that girls could box. I didn't even think that that was a possibility.
And then on a flight, she watched a movie, and she saw what was possible.
Yeah, I saw $1 Million Baby on an airplane, and I thought, I could do that. I could try that.
When she was 15, Rogers stepped into the ring.
I think it was the challenge that was appealing to me. It was something different. It was something totally out of my comfort zone. It's like playing violent chess. Yeah, it's not about beating somebody up. It's not about hurting your opponent. It's about out-strategizing them.
What did Mom think of that? Her mom thought it was a phase.
Oh, it's a phase. It'll pass. That was my honest feeling.
Lisa Lloyd, who's coaching Rogers for the Miss Utah competition, thought,
Mallory, your face. You're in pageants.
I am afraid of getting hurt. Yeah, of course I am. Somebody's coming at me. You know, it's going to happen, and it has happened. I have been hurt. Just a lot of bruises, a lot of fat lips or black eyes.
Does Mom worry about her getting hurt?
I do, and she has received a concussion.
I passed out. I got knocked out.
I think that hopefully as it gets close to Miss Utah, that she will maybe lay off it for a while, because going to Miss Utah with a black eye would not be great.
I'm not a state queen. I'm not Miss America. I mean, if I have a black eye, that's who I am. The judges decided to make me Miss Murray for a reason, and I'm not going to hurry up and change who I am just so I can put a crown on my head.
Would you want her to change?
No, I wouldn't. I would not want Mallory to change at all. She wouldn't be happy.
On stage or in the ring, Mallory Rogers, now 21, remains true to herself, even if she gets a black eye in the process.
This is my home, you know, a boxing bag, a boxing ring. It's where I feel like myself.
Peter Rosen, KSL 5 News.
We have team coverage in New Hampshire, and we begin with political specialist Richard Pius. Richard joins us live from Des Moines.
It is covering the vote for us tonight from Detroit.
Political specialist John Daly live in North Carolina.
Joins us live tonight from Columbia, South Carolina.
From the lawn of the Ohio State Capitol. By this time tomorrow, as you mentioned, Super Tuesday is pretty much going to be over, and we'll have a really good idea of who the likely presidential GOP nominee is going to be. Until that time, it's very much up in the air, and the voters around here, I can tell you, are very fickle.
Mitt Romney is working hard to connect with people at places where people are hard-working. At this sheet metal plant in Canton, Ohio, Romney promised more jobs.
What I know is the economy. I spent my life in the real economy. I understand why jobs come and why they go.
Rick Santorum sought connection too at an Amish restaurant called Der Dutchman in Plain City, Ohio. It was here a young woman asked for and got his autograph.
I'll be voting tomorrow. I'm not 100% sure who I'll vote for, but yeah, we'll see.
Santorum told me encounters like that make him realize Ohio isn't necessarily Santorum country.
Governor Romney has spent
$12 million in the state, and we've spent about $1 million. And the fact that we are still in this race and have a chance to win it shows you very definitely that Ohioans really like Rick Santorum.
Gilbert, South Carolina. A rally for Mitt Romney draws both strong supporters and some who are trying to make up their minds. Is Romney's LDS faith a factor? Yes, says undecided voter Sue Murrow.
I believe there is a problem with that, with the evangelicals, and I consider myself an evangelical.
Monroe has been researching Romney on the web. She says it's important for her that he stands on Christian principles.
He believes in God. He's pro-life. And those are 2 points that I'm interested in.
The state's treasurer, a Tea Party conservative, backs Romney.
I don't think it's significant. I'm an evangelical Christian. The last 12 years of my life I spent overseas doing mission work. So most of my friends just don't have a problem.
We decided to cut through the clutter a little bit with a reality check on what some of them are saying. A multi-million-dollar spending spree is funding these ads, many paid for by out-of-state PACs. Love's ads play up Matheson's relationship with the president. Matheson's ads portray Love as extreme and out of touch. Example, this ad centering on Medicare, paid for by a Democrat PAC.
Mia Love supported a budget plan the Wall Street Journal said would essentially end Medicare. The plan would replace Medicare with a voucher system that would double seniors' medical bills.
Actually, Love has said she supports the Paul Ryan plan, which would reform Medicare moving forward with privatization as an option, but not change it for those currently on the program. A Republican PAC counterattacks Matheson on health care this way.
Matheson supports President Obama's liberal agenda, like funding for Obamacare, more debt, and higher taxes on families.
Matheson actually voted against Obamacare multiple times before it became law. But he did cast a procedural vote against repeal when the law was on its way to the Supreme Court.
KSL has a team of news specialists in place to cover all the results. Let's start with political specialist Richard Pyatt, who's live in Boston at Mitt Romney's headquarters.
Who's surprised by anything we've seen?
Well, none of those surprised us at all.
You know, I thought it was interesting, Senator. I'm not sure if you're a big AC/DC fan, but they were playing Back in Black before you took the stage. What do you think about that?
She seemed a little emotional. I said, how does this feel to you?
Look around the room and I see so many people that have worked so hard. I mean, sacrificed so many hours in their heart and just efforts to get us to where we are today. I have had just a great time going around to the people of the 4th District, and I honestly believe we live in the greatest state in this country.
Logan Tom is the mom of this USA volleyball team, and she's cool with the nickname. At 31, she's just the 6th American woman to play volleyball in 4 different Olympics. Logan won a silver in Beijing. But with this team at this time, it's all about the gold here in London.
Oh, hi. I'm hungry.
Former Highland High Ram Logan Tom's hungry for her first gold medal.
I've trained since I was, 16 for it? So yeah, it does. It's scary as hell.
Yeah, it's hard to visit this part of central London by Big Ben and not run into a street musician. Of course, they know tourists will be here, ready to toss a little change their way. Then there is Bobby FM, who sets up in the underground subway station, hoping to attract generous tourists before they head outside.
Welcome back. We're halfway through our special interactive report, Testing Your Brain.
This is scary. Let's check back with news specialist Jennifer Stagg.
Well, Bruce and Deanie, right before we went to break, we showed you a sequence, and here is the correct answer. It's C. How did everybody do? Well, as we head into the next half of our story, here's your next question. If you had a ton of feathers and a ton of stones, which one would be heavier? Start posting those answers on KSL's Facebook page right now, and watch for your answer starting now as we head into the next half.
At Two Creeks Coffee House in Salt Lake City, today's blend is a particularly rich roast, properly aged.
I see the world in a way that's more understandable to me today.
At 51 years of age, Scott Senjo says he's in the prime of his life. A college professor and criminologist, he admits a bit of his mental edge has waned, but he says wisdom more than makes up for it.
I'm not as sharp as I used to be, but the countervailing sort of side to that is that I conceptualize better.
Senjo says he stimulates his mind, body, and soul by challenging himself with new skills, even writing poetry. And researchers say that is likely the reason his brain power continues to grow as he ages.
Learning new things, staying sharp, not falling into ruts, not relying on automatic processing all the time.
We all come into this world with a certain level of intelligence. U of U professor Michael Gardner says it's categorized as fluid intelligence. It includes our IQ and peaks around our 20s. The other half of our intelligence is learned.
Crystallized intelligence, which is the results of acculturation or schooling, increases basically through your entire lifetime.
Crystallized intelligence is based on life experience. Education, culture, and developing new interests all play a role. And researchers believe crystallized intelligence is the key to mental sharpness as we age. Stimulate your brain, increase your brain power.
A lot of crossword puzzles, probably, at least one a day.
Plastic surgeon David Thomas takes care of himself mentally and physically. Researchers found 4 common characteristics in senior citizens who performed as well as younger adults on intelligence tests. They exercised frequently, they were socially active, and remained calm in the face of stress, and they felt more in control of their lives.
I think that exercise and food, healthy food, are critical to our well-being.
So while at times it may seem appealing to go back to your youth, you may want to listen to the wisdom that comes with age. It's aging in the right way that makes the difference.
Well, I like my life at this age.
Well, here's the answer to the question we asked you after the break. They are both a ton, so they weigh the same. And we want to toss you one more brain test. Rearrange the letters in the words new door to make one word. Chime in with those answers on Facebook and we'll reveal the correct answer at the end of the show. In the meantime, head to KSL.com to learn some simple ways to increase your brain power every day.
A paper boy in Smithfield had an unusual confrontation with a goat. He says it knocked him off his bike and chased him up a tree.
As a former paper boy myself, I find this both disturbing and entertaining at the same time. Northern Utah specialist Mike Anderson talked to the boy and the goat's owner.
This 1.5-year-old goat may have a villainous name.
Voldemort.
But to owner Marissa Benson and her 2 young boys,
he's a really good pet. Good with kids. A good lawnmower.
Still, somehow Voldemort's chain broke. He got loose, making his way across Smithfield Main Street.
It was dark, and I saw this figure.
14-year-old Jackson Gessel was on his early morning paper route.
But I thought it was just a dog.
At first, he didn't think much of it.
And then it made a weird noise, kind of like a grunting noise.
Gessel says the shadowy figure, Voldemort, started coming towards him.
And so I looked over and I'm like, what the heck is that?
He was knocked off his bike. He started to run away.
It just freaked me out when it stood up on its back legs and wrapped its front legs around me and pulled me off.
Jackson took shelter in this tree. There he was, up in the branches, looking down at the goat looking back up at him. This went on for about an hour. Meantime, Smithfield police officer Brandon Muir.
Juveniles reported that he hadn't returned from a paper route and it was about an hour and a half overdue.
Was working a missing child case called in by Gessel's parents until he got another call about a boy in a tree and a goat.
He kind of had his paper bag sitting in the tree where he was. He was about halfway up the tree.
Gessel says it was a strange morning, one his classmates won't soon let him forget.
There's everybody, they're all, hey goat boy. I'm like, hey guys.
Though he says faced with Voldemort in the dark, you might react the same way.
People are just they're like, why are you scared of goats? I'm like, that was a freaky goat. I think it's possessed or something.
No one was hurt, and Voldemort is back to causing trouble at home. And his owners, being Harry Potter fans, have already come up with a nickname for Jackson Gessel.
That he's the boy that lived.
In Cache County, Mike Anderson, KSL 5 News.
People forced from their homes because of this wildfire. When will people be able to return? I'm Lori Pritchard, live from the evacuation center.
And I'm Mike Hedrick, live at the command center in Harriman with the very latest on this wildfire.
Governor Herbert arrives at the fire scene. What he says. I'm Dave McCann. KSL 5 News at 10 starts right now.
This is KSL, your news specialists at 10.
You can't outlaw stupid. The words tonight from a frustrated Governor Gary Herbert after another human-caused disaster. In this one, a car fire ignites a wildfire and turns a quiet Friday into a nightmare. And the fire burns on live pictures from Harriman in South Salt Lake County. And now live pictures from Chopper 5, exclusive from high above, the only news helicopter in the state of Utah, which has been very busy today. We have a team of specialists on Fire Watch tonight from the command post of the fire, the latest details and what's happening right now. We're also at Harriman High School, where residents have spent much of the day. News specialist Mike Hedrick kicks off our coverage on the scene. Mike?
Yeah, Dave, 900 plus homes were evacuated at some point this evening, and it appears that most of those people are going to have to stay where they are. They're not going to be able to return at all tonight. That's word from the governor and most of the officials here this evening. With that said, though, a bulk of the fire seems to be out, at least on this side of the mountain, with the exception of just a few hot spots out there, which they do have crews up there that are maintaining and trying to watch those hot spots and put them out throughout the evening. But with the wind the way it is, you never know, it can pick back up again. We understand 3 houses have been destroyed and a detached garage as well. News specialist Alex Cabrera joined us live. He's been covering this fire really throughout the beginning of this. And Alex, you know, very interesting as the governor talks about how frustrated he is. Well, good reason, as we understand that a car, apparently a hot car, driving up on some hot grass, and that apparently is what started it.
That's what it sounds like, Mike, and it's one of those things that easily could have been avoided because the governor says this is something he has spoken about for at least the last 2 years, that dry grass. Somebody just parked their car on that dry grass. Well, the heat got onto the dry grass, started a fire, and before anybody knew it, that fire was pretty quick and moving fast. Now, we got the latest update. 350 acres have burned, including at least 3 homes. And as you mentioned, Mike, there are about 950 homes in this area. All of them are still evacuated, and this area has been declared a county emergency disaster. The images from Chopper 5 are gut-wrenching. Homes on fire, forever lost because of a fast-moving, out-of-control wildfire. Fire crews got on it as fast as they could. Unlike many fires that start in remote rural areas, this one started right next to houses. We're told a car parked over dry grass started the fire. And with as dry as it is, the grass and sagebrush just lit up. The winds spreading it fast.
We've got agencies from all across the valley and even, I think, some of our neighboring counties that we're going to be calling in and using.
For evacuation, 7100 West.
Utah National Guard members were authorized to help fight this fire.
I need the big trailer back here!
Families scrambled to get whatever they could before leaving their homes. Natalie Vincent works at this animal rescue where some 500 animals needed to be loaded up and taken away as fast as possible.
We have all the chickens and roosters in kennels, and we got trucks coming in to haul them out.
But at least for her and some other families, they had time to leave, time to get important items out. For some families, it was too late.
It is a tinderbox out here.
Now an evacuation center with the Red Cross has been set up at Harriman High School. We're told about 100 people are there as we speak, and if they have nowhere else to go, they could be there at least through the night, because that's how long we're told the evacuation is going to last, at least through the night. But Mike, you know, as we're looking out there towards the fire now, it certainly looks a lot better now than it did a few hours ago.
Yeah, you just never know what's on the other side of that ridge, and that's the big fear, and that's why crews continue to work throughout this evening. So Alex, thank you very much. And as Alex touched on there, all these people who have been evacuated, where are they going to go? Well, most of them have gone to Harriman High School, at least a portion of them. 900 plus homes evacuated. We understand at least 100 people are at Harriman High School. That's where we find news specialist Lori Pritchard. And Lori, how many of those people do you believe are going to stay the night tonight?
Well, Mike, at last count, I was told there are about 92 people here, and between 5 and 6 families plan on staying here at this shelter at Harriman High School. Let me just step out of the way and set the scene for you. We've seen a little flurry of activity in the last 45 minutes of people come in, check in, or people check out. And actually, Governor Herbert is here as well. He was talking to firefighters as well as the evacuees, trying to give them some reassurance and some information. I think that's really what people are craving at this point. But as we talk to evacuees all evening long, it seems, Sandra, and I'll bring you in now, that, you know, people were panicked earlier, they seem a little bit more calm this evening.
That's right, Lori. It's a scary situation, as you can imagine, for a lot of these evacuees. One woman saw the fire begin. She escaped with the clothes on her back. Just a little while ago here at the evacuation center, I overheard one woman asking another, "Did your house make it?" A lot of people waiting for the answer to that question. As they wait, all they can do is hope for the best.
It was just maybe about waist high. It wasn't even very big.
But all that changed in an instant.
When I came back out to the porch, the 2 trees next to it were just in flames. And then the next thing I knew, all the stuff right in front of me was all on fire, and it was going towards my neighbors' houses.
She grabbed her kids and a niece and a nephew. They got out with just the clothes on their backs.
It was just so fast. It just went whoosh like that in minutes.
With smoke pouring into homes, others grabbed what they could.
Laptops, jewelry, important papers, and that's it. And I drove away sobbing, and I knew that my kids were safe.
McKenna Allen and her family grabbed their 3 dogs, 2 birds, and a cat. They had to leave 6 other cats behind.
My mom said that they were smart enough to go in the basement and stay safe, so that kind of made me feel better.
Evacuees gathered at Harriman High School. Volunteers helped the elderly and fed the hungry, providing comfort in a time of uncertainty.
It has been very busy.
Red Cross volunteer Tina Spencer has gone from one fire to another. She got back from central Utah last night.
We've had multiple fires. We've had multiple shelters open, reception centers open.
For evacuees, it's a place they can call home for now.
When you're standing on your front porch, you can feel the heat from the flames. You don't say, "Hey, do I need to go?"
Right.
You get out.
And the good news for that woman, as of several hours ago, we do know that her house was still standing. And Lori, here at the evacuation center, we've seen such an outpouring of support. In just the last little while, we saw Chick-fil-A deliver some food. I've seen Cafe Rio, Little Caesars Pizza. They say they have so much food and water for all these evacuees.
A lot of community outpouring. I'm sure a lot of these people appreciate that. And one thing I've noticed here is that there are quite a few children, and they don't seem to be panicked. There's actually a kids' room where they're watching movies, they're coloring, and so they're keeping those kids busy. But I think that's kind of a primer of how people are feeling. If you can look at those children's faces and don't see the fear, then you know things are going well for the families here. Just a few housekeeping items. The Red Cross reports that they do not need any more volunteers this evening. And also, if you need medication, there is a medical unit here that is seeing people if they are in need of medical supplies. Dave, back to you.
All right, Lori, thank you. Now let's check on the nemesis of the night, and that's the wind. Let's go to the Weather Center. And Lene, you've been checking that tonight.
We've been watching it very closely. We've seen different wind directions today, some from the south and some from the north. We're still seeing that on our wind speed map. If you're around Salt Lake or further north, we've seen more of a northerly wind. And if you're south of that little frontal boundary, you're seeing mostly a southwest wind. Wind speeds have come down between about 5 and 15 miles an hour. We were seeing wind speeds near 20 and 30 miles an hour earlier, so that's the good news. The winds look like they'll continue to let up for tonight, but they may be back tomorrow. Warm temperatures this afternoon and warm right now in the 80s and 70s. More heat to come for this weekend. Your full forecast in just a few minutes.
Thanks, Lene. Some evacuated residents had time to get their animals out of harm's way. News specialist Shara Park is live at the Salt Lake County Equestrian Park, where a lot of newcomers are spending the night. Shara?
Yeah, that's right, Dave. Right now we're feeding Katie here, who was evacuated. There are about 180 animals that were evacuated from Harriman today. A lot of folks, they chipped in, they did whatever they could because they could not bear to see these animals get caught up in this fire.
There you go. Horses, sheep, llamas, turkeys, chickens. Neighbors helping neighbors, strangers helping strangers.
I just was driving down and asking anybody that needed to evacuate or help.
Dozens of volunteers raced into the foothills of Harriman to save whatever animals they could find.
We just jumped in our car and grabbed some kennels and went and picked them up.
I was rushing my parents. I'm like, let's go, let's go.
Many homeowners had to leave some behind.
We left behind 3 horses, 2 donkeys, and numerous cats.
And we left 25 pigs, goats, 30 goats and sheep, 40 goats and sheep, 2 steer, emus, ostriches,
Faith Ching is the owner of Ching Farm Rescue and Sanctuary. As she evacuated with her first load of animals, the fire was headed towards her house.
Our neighbors' houses were burning right in front of our eyes.
Dozens of people jumped in to help Faith with her horses as she arrived at the Salt Lake County Equestrian Park.
A flake in each of the stalls, starting at that end and going down, and then go get another.
As the evening wore on, many of Faith's animals arrived at the park with strangers. Most of the rescued animals arrived at the park scared, confused by all the commotion. But volunteers quickly made these animals feel at home.
Baby's in here. Come on. Come, Mama. Come on.
And they assured their owners they were in good hands.
I mean, anything we can do to help the animals. I mean, they're victims just as much as people.
Now, for many of the Harriman residents who left animals behind, a lot of these animals, about half of them, are unclaimed at this time. So if you left an animal behind, you can come here to the equestrian park and check in to see if one of your animals made it out alive. Back to you.
Shara, thank you. It'll be a restless night for a lot of those four-legged fellas. The LDS Church has released a statement tonight. In part, they say, quote, "We encourage individuals, families, and congregations to pray for the safety of firefighters, protection of lives and homes, and favorable weather conditions to help control the many wildfires currently burning." Next, hundreds turn out for a candlelight vigil for West Jordan murder victim Sierra Newbold. And it's back to the fire as it burns this hour. Fire Watch continues on KSL 5. Hundreds of people turned out tonight for a candlelight vigil in West Jordan to remember Sierra Newbold. She's the 6-year-old girl who was murdered and whose body was found in a canal near her home. Those who attended were asked to wear pink and purple ribbons on their wrists. The search for her killer continues. Across the valley, a much different scene. Let's go back to Harriman where Mike Hedrick is. Mike, not to be lost in all of this and in all that impressive video and the wildfires and the property damage, no injuries from this as far as we know.
No. Yeah, it's hard to believe, isn't it? And still, that's preliminary, and hopefully that remains the case throughout this evening. I'll tell you what, Dave, though, if you came out here and you saw what was going on, it seemed like maybe a circus or a parade was going to be coming through town. You had people lining the streets on both sides of the street, wanting to see what was going on. You can understand it's human nature to do something like that, but it made it pretty difficult for a lot of these firefighters and emergency crews to make their way through and on up into the mountain to fight it. News specialist Andrew Wittenberg was in the midst of all this. And Andrew, the governor came out, he spoke, he had some very strong words for the general public and some high praise for these hard-working firefighters.
He did, Mike, and we were both here when he had that sort of miniature press conference about an hour and a half ago, and we all looked at each other and kind of chuckle in a way when we hear it. It's the quote of the night, perhaps the quote of the month, is that you can't outlaw stupid. Those are the words from Governor Gary Herbert when it comes to fighting these wildfires. Also, large traffic jams, onlookers really preventing some of those early crews, as you mentioned, from actually getting in here and fighting the fire, yet those who were watching had nothing else to do other than watch and wait. Onlookers by the dozen watch and take pictures as the Rosecrest fire torches homes and structures. Becky Garvey stood with dozens of others, helpless to do anything but watch.
I know that it's a barn behind our house was on fire and our fences are melted. My neighbor's husband's up there.
Utah Governor Gary Herbert toured burned areas Friday night.
If you're going to have a fire, I guess Utah's a good place to have one, but we don't want them.
He learned of this blaze as he visited 2 firefighters in the hospital injured in the Oak City fire earlier in the week.
They're inspiring people. I mean, they have great attitudes. They are volunteers stepping into harm's way to protect their neighbors, and in many cases, people they don't even know.
Traffic and cell phone use were concerns as roads and lines became flooded.
Stay away. We were fortunate, though, the winds started blowing the other direction. We had the winds coming and the fire coming down this direction, but fortunately now we're in a somewhat of a safe zone, but still there's some homes up here that are in jeopardy.
So some strong words from all sorts of public officials here tonight, and we've heard it again from target shooting and now from a car that has actually sparked a wildfire. Mike and Jed, some strong words, some strong warnings from public officials.
Yeah, definitely that's the case. All right, Andrew, thank you so much. Jed Bull obviously live with me right now. And Jed, this is interesting because a lot of the people here are a little leery, I think, for the past couple of years. You had the machine gun fire 2 years ago. It's almost like deja vu for some of them.
Right, nothing quite like a bad fire in the past to let you know that you need to even better prepare prepare for the future. Certainly, that was one of the concerns out here tonight. You're bound to have some chaos with an evacuation, but the people that I spoke with said that they've learned some lessons.
It's a miracle. It's on all sides.
Greg Wood truly feared he might lose his home today.
Just below my house, you see a little bit of smolder there. There was a house there. It's gone.
He was working in Park City. His wife was outside playing with their kids when flames roared over the ridge and headed for their home.
She got the kids in the car, the dog, and got out. Didn't have time to grab anything.
They didn't hesitate because they've been through this before.
It burned on all four sides all around us, and it looks like they were able to keep it safe.
Tammy Alder watched the fire from her home on an opposing hillside.
Kind of scary, so you just have to be ready and prepared.
Her car was loaded and ready to go.
We got a plan now.
She's been on edge for weeks because of the fire danger. They even decided to stay home July 4th and 24th for that reason.
You can see the whole circle of fire surrounding probably about 2 to 3 houses was going up around it.
Alder says she almost expected a fire this summer. So when it happened,
I just told them to go get the pictures and paperwork, birth certificates and that, and just put it in the truck just in case we have to get ready to go.
Now, Tammy Alder told me that she did see a car crash into a police cruiser right on the road in front of her home, and there was quite a traffic jam. But here in this community, it's no longer a fire drill for them. They know it's a reality. Dave, back to you in the studio.
All right, Jed, thank you. Lene is here as we look at the forecast, and I think it's 6:30 tonight. It was still 94 degrees out there.
Yeah, it's still very warm, and another warm day on the way for tomorrow.
That's not good.
Nope. Let's take a look outside, though. Not a bad night. Again, the wind's a lot quieter than they have been recently, so that's a happy thought for us. 83 degrees, north winds calm, humidity level a little higher, 17%. Now we want to show you a great picture. This is our winner for tonight in the KSL weather photo contest. Marissa Smith sent this in. You can see the sun peeking through some of those smoke clouds from one of the Utah fires this week. Now starting tonight, Marissa's picture along with the other 3 weekly winners will be put up for a vote from you, our KSL viewers. All you have to do, go to KSL.com, click on the weather link and photo gallery link and choose the one you like. Next Friday, we'll announce the winner, and they will have their photo in the 2013 KSL weather calendar. So thank you, Marissa, for sending that in. Current wind speeds a little bit lighter than what we saw today, between about 5 and 15 miles an hour. We are still seeing kind of variable winds, some from the south, west, northwest, calm, northwest, and we do have a little weak frontal boundary that's really kind of just keeping those winds changing up in that general vicinity. But that southwest wind warmed us up today. 98 was our high this afternoon. The average high is 89 degrees. And as far as precipitation, average for June for this time is about almost an inch. So far this June, we have seen a trace. That's all we've seen all of June. Very behind as far as rain goes. So what happens when you have dry conditions and extremely hot temperatures? Well, that's easy. You go find a glacial lake, as Matt Gallen took this picture. A glacial lake, definitely chilly there, and thought that was a fun picture. Quick looking ahead at tomorrow's forecast, we will be in the mid-90s to 100s across the area. More of the same weather. Temperatures in the morning will be in the 70s. For the eastern part of the forecast area, 58 Cedar City, 54 starting out in Beaver, and then low 90s to mid 90s along Beaver, Cedar City. Another very hot day across the area. St. George, not really any change heading all the way into July 4th. Keep those triple digits around. Mid to upper 90s again tomorrow for the Wasatch Front. So another hot day. Temperatures will continue to be warm into Sunday, breezy as well. Monday, a slight dip in temperature, and then for July 4th, back in the mid-90s. So go find your glacial lake.
This is it, the last weekend of June.
Yeah, not a great way to end, is it?
No, and we're going to go back to Harriman in just a moment.
Congratulations to the winner of a Disneyland Resort Getaway from KSL. For your chance to win, visit KSL5 TV on Facebook.
I'm Lori Pritchard here live at Harriman High School at the Red Cross Evacuation Center, and I'm joined by Governor Gary Herbert. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. I know you're probably tired. We heard a soundbite from you earlier where you said you can't outlaw stupid, and as I was driving down here this evening, there was a truck behind me and a gentleman threw his lit cigarette butt out the window. Is that what you're talking about?
That's exactly what I'm talking about. People are just not thinking.
Well, we We had the governor right there, and we'll see if we can get that fixed a little bit. Chopper 5 is above the fire that still burns over Harriman tonight. And these are pictures that you'll only see here on KSL 5. Some of this left over from the homes that went up in flames. And we've fixed our technical difficulties. Let's get back to the governor. Lori?
All right, Governor, we apologize. We had a minor technical issue there. But again, continue.
Well, again, we need to have people to be wise in their conduct. Think about what the possibilities are when you throw a cigarette butt out the window, or park your car on the top of dry weeds and a hot muffler or catalytic converter, which will start a fire, or move a campfire outside of an approved campfire ring. I mean, they're just things we ought to be thinking about. It's dry out there. It's a tinder-like condition. And so we can't outlaw stupidity. We can try to remind you to be wise in your conduct.
I know you've been thanking firefighters and talking to evacuees. You've spent about 45 minutes here this evening. Just a real quick thought on what you've seen in the community outpouring.
Well, again, I'm proud to be a Utahn. And again, we've got just great people. I mean, their resiliency, their attitude, their upbeat optimism, even with people who are losing property and homes and belongings and just being inconvenienced. It's remarkable, the spirit that we have here in Utah. And again, I believe that adversity brings out the true character of people. And if that's a measurement, we've got really wonderful people here in Utah that are going through some difficult times.
All right, Governor Gary Herbert, we appreciate your time this evening. Channel 5 News continues right after this.
For some Harriman homeowners, this fire feels and smells all too familiar. Just 2 years ago, the machine gun fire forced evacuations in some of the same areas, destroying 3 homes. News specialist Mike Anderson takes us back to another rough firefight.
Yeah, Dave, well, you've got to consider that tonight's fire started just to the northeast of the machine gun fire 2 years ago. And in both fires, people were evacuated from the High Country Estate subdivision.
A hillside on fire tonight, a similar site seen in September 2010. The machine gun fire erupted during some very dry, volatile conditions. The National Guard went forward with target practice, failing to check warnings put in place by the National Weather Service.
We shot in the face of a red flag warning, which is something we do not do. We had a communication error yesterday.
An error that led to some devastating results. More than 4,000 acres burned, 3 homes destroyed. The machine gun fire started at a range at Camp Williams just south of Harriman. Today, the Rose Crest fire started near 151 South and 7600 West, quickly spreading and destroying 3 homes. Just as many homes destroyed 2 years ago.
If it's gone, I don't think I'll ever be able to go back. It's just taken us too long to build our beautiful, beautiful home. And
fears felt by homeowners in 2010 on the minds of evacuees tonight. While the evacuation area for the Rose Crest fire includes more than 900 homes, about 1,400 homes were evacuated for the machine gun fire just to the northeast of tonight's burned area. That fire continues to rage tonight with even more of those dry fuels than we saw 2 years ago.
And we will be right back.